fuck is that? Oh! Good to put things to rest.
The movie opens with an old woman, Judy, watching TV, while her nurse, Grace, is working in the kitchen. Judy soon notices a clown doll on the shelf and climbs onto a stool to adjust it. She succeeds and steps down. But as she puts back the stool,
Judy, breakfast! Judy?
the scene then cuts to a hospital, where we see Judy's children, Megan and Noah. An anxious Megan explains that the doctor said their mother suffered a massive stroke, and her speech might never return. But Noah doesn't seem too concerned and even makes a joke about it. We also meet Megan's husband, Diego, who is there with their 2 little sons. After Diego takes the kids home, Megan and Noah check on their mother, and their hearts feel heavy at the sight of her state. The siblings then leave the hospital, and we learn that Noah lives in another city and rushed here only because of their mother's sudden accident. Moments later, they notice a disheveled man named Doug Metzger wandering the street, and Megan tells Noah that he lives in a group home somewhere. Shortly after, the siblings arrive at Judy's house and find it in a mess. They make their way to the basement, only to discover mold and water everywhere due to a leaking pipe. Noah is especially enraged to see his childhood belongings ruined and begins yelling in frustration. Megan then notices a hole behind a wall panel, so she starts tearing it apart to see what lies behind, but their eyes widen with horror when a corpse emerges from within. After calming herself, Megan says she recognizes the corpse's tracksuit, which belonged to a woman named Patty Metzger, who disappeared in 1997. The whole town had been searching for her back then, while Megan and Noah were sent to their grandparents for a week. When they returned, there was paneling in the basement wall, and after that, their parents never left the home. The siblings are even more horrified as they recall how her husband, Mr. Metzger, drank himself to death, since his own children thought he had killed their mother. Megan now suggests they must call the police, but Noah refuses, as he doesn't want to tarnish their family's reputation. He argues that it happened 30 years ago, their dad is dead, and all the Metzger kids have moved away, except Doug. When Megan disagrees, Noah finally confesses that his business has been failing, and he is drowning in debt. He had been counting on his inheritance, which would come after their mother dies. He warns that if this gets out, the Metzger kids could sue them, forcing them to sell the house and leaving them with nothing. Upon hearing all this, a reluctant Megan agrees to stay silent for now. After this, Megan leaves for her home, while Noah decides to stay at their mother's place. Later, Diego notices Megan is visibly stressed, so he assumes it's because of her mother and comforts her. Noah, on the other hand, snoops around the house and soon discovers a gun along with bullets that belong to their veteran father. The next day, the siblings meet again and devise a plan to get rid of the body. That night, around 3 a.m., they place the corpse in a polyethylene bag and load it into Megan's car. The two drive through the night to a secluded lake in town, where no one ever goes. They then dump the body into the water, and Noah warns his sister that this might take a toll on her, but she must not tell anyone, not even her husband or therapist. Days later, Megan has resumed her usual routine and is seen dropping her kids off at school. But to her surprise, on her way back home, she hears on the local news that some students were testing the water at a nearby lake when they discovered a plastic bag containing human remains. The police suspect it's a homicide, which fills Megan with a rising sense of terror. Later, the siblings meet at the hospital, where Noah assures Megan that the cops probably won't even figure out whose body it is, and it won't tie back to them. But they are shocked to see a lieutenant named Zell in their mom's room. She's asking Judy questions, but the annoyed Grace asks the officer to leave, saying she's upsetting the old woman. Next, Zell privately speaks with the siblings and reveals that the body they found was Patty Metzger, which was confirmed through her dental records. She just wants some information because their family was close with the Metzgers. The lieutenant thus asks them to contact her if their mom recalls anything. After she leaves, the siblings approach their mother and assure her not to worry because they're taking care of the Patty situation. Later, when the duo returns home, they are shocked to find Grace relaxing by the pool, drinking beer, and cooking steak. Megan asks what she's doing here, and in a shocking twist, Grace reveals that Judy once confessed to her that she killed Patty 30 years ago. She explains that she had been to the basement many times and noticed a leak, but Judy never let her call anyone to fix it. Moreover, she checked the basement today and discovered the hole in the panel, which confirmed that the siblings had found the body. A stunned Noah then asks what she wants, and Grace demands $10,000 in exchange for her silence. She knows Noah is useless, but it wouldn't be difficult for Megan to scrape together that kind of money. Here, Noah notices Grace wearing his mother's Rolex and shouts at her, but she smugly claims it was a gift from Judy. In the end, Noah reluctantly agrees they will pay her, and they arrange to meet at a diner the next day. After the nurse leaves, a panicked Megan begins wondering how to get the money and considers using her savings and her kids' college funds. But Noah points out that there's no guarantee Grace will leave them alone after being paid. Instead, he suggests contacting someone named Bodhi, who is the creepiest person they know and would do anything for Judy. He decides they will pay Grace, but Bodhi will also intimidate her to make her realize they aren't people to be messed with. Megan hesitates because Bodhi is a criminal, but Noah reminds her of all the terrible consequences that could befall her children if this secret is exposed. In the next scene, Noah arrives at a farmhouse and meets Bodhi, who turns out to be his cousin. After a brief conversation, Noah explains how a nurse has been stealing from his mom and is now falsely accusing her of killing someone 30 years ago. Bodhi says the nurse doesn't have any proof and suggests ignoring her, but Noah insists that his mom could die from the stress. Upon hearing this, Bodhi worries for his aunt and finally agrees to scare the girl. The next day, Megan and Noah sit in their car in front of the diner, when Bodhi also arrives. Megan thanks him for his help, and he says that family is the most important thing to him. Moments later, Grace shows up, and Noah prepares to go meet her, but Bodhi suddenly says he'll handle it alone and leaves with the money. When Bodhi meets Grace, she immediately jokes that the duo hired him to scare her, but it's not working. She then starts badmouthing Judy and her kids, claiming they care about no one but themselves. Here Bodhi's eyes flash with rage when he notices her wearing Judy's Rolex. And so, he threatens to slit her throat if anything happens to his aunt and storms out, leaving Grace visibly terrified. Meanwhile, the siblings begin to panic when they see Bodhi leaving the diner with the bag full of money. He returns the money and reassures them that Grace won't trouble them anymore. Just then, the siblings spot Grace leaving the diner and worry that she might be heading straight to the police. Bodhi states that she wouldn't have stayed quiet after receiving the $10,000, as people like her always want more. Elsewhere, Lieutenant Zell is shocked when she learns from her subordinate that Patty's body had only recently been dumped in the water, despite being dead for 30 years. That night, Noah is alone at home when he hears the doorbell ringing insistently, but he freezes in terror at the sight of Grace with a big man. He quickly texts his sister, who is in the middle of a live stream to sell her clothes. When Grace threatens to force her way in, Noah reluctantly opens the door while shaking with fear. Next, she snatches Noah's phone and gives Megan an ultimatum: she has 19 minutes to show up, or Grace will call the police. This terrifies Megan, who immediately rushes out after telling Diego that there's an emergency at the hospital. A while later, Megan finally arrives at the house, but it's too late, as Grace has already called the cops. At this moment, the police also arrive, and an officer informs Megan that they received a call about someone suspicious lurking outside. Noah explains that they heard some noises and made the call, but assures them everything is quiet and fine now. Regardless, the suspicious officer enters the home, where Noah introduces Grace and the big man as his friends. The officer looks around and finally leaves after discovering nothing out of the ordinary. Afterward, the cunning nurse tells the siblings that she now wants $25,000, and the exchange will take place at an abandoned train bridge. She threatens to call the cops if she sees Bodhi again, and the big man brutally punches Noah before walking away. Later, while Grace is driving, the big man, Sean, suddenly feels sick to his stomach and asks her to pull over. It turns out he isn't a thug, but a normal hairstylist who has never fought anyone. He scolds Grace for dragging him into such a dangerous situation, but she reminds him that he can use the money for his daughter's college fund. She also reveals that she plans to turn the siblings in anyway after receiving her payment. The next day, the siblings meet Grace and Sean at their arranged location. Megan reveals that she has only managed to gather $22,000 on such short notice and promises to pay the rest later. Sean urges Grace to accept it and leave, but the greedy nurse refuses and threatens to call the police. Having had enough, Megan tells her to go ahead and call them, as all she did was try to protect her family. However, Grace now begins hurling insults at her, which leads Megan to angrily attack the nurse. And then this happens. Megan kicked his bad knee, causing him to hit his head and bleeds profusely. Grace insists they need to rush him to a hospital, to which Megan agrees, but then Noah pulls out a gun and suddenly fires at Sean. A terrified Grace tries to run, but Noah shoots her in the back, causing her to tumble into the water and disappear. Later, when the siblings return home, Noah is visibly shaken by everything, but Megan tells him to wash his hands and change his clothes. Noah suddenly says that he'll contact his dad's lawyer and confess everything, but Megan firmly warns him not to tell anyone or Google anything. Afterward, Megan is startled by someone, only to see it's Doug. Doug mentions that he hasn't seen her in ages. Before he leaves, he points out something in her hair, and Megan is shocked to realize that it's blood. The next morning, authorities arrive to investigate the dead body of Sean on the bridge, and Grace's corpse is also soon discovered washed up on shore. Lieutenant Zell recognizes her, and she later summons Megan and Noah for questioning. It's revealed that Sean was actually Grace's ex-husband, but the siblings insist they barely spoke to Grace and had no idea what Sean even looked like. The lieutenant finds it odd that ever since their return to town, 3 dead bodies have turned up, each in some way connected to them. Days later, during a family dinner, Bodhi shows up unannounced at Megan's house, which immediately puts her on edge. Bodhi deliberately stirs tension by bringing up Grace's death and makes his cousins visibly uneasy. He even teases the kids, saying he knows a big secret about their mom and Uncle Noah. But he lightens the mood by insisting that the family must stick together and invites everyone to his house on Sunday for lunch. The next day, the siblings discuss Bodhi's bizarre behavior, and Noah suspects that the man knows they killed the nurse. He warns that Bodhi is unstable and might reveal their secret to someone. Megan, however, tells him not to overthink it and to try to move on from what happened. Regardless, Noah struggles to remain calm and suffers from nightmares about his crimes, which eventually leads him to seek solace in drugs. The next day, the siblings arrive at Bodhi's farmhouse, and he looks a little disappointed that the kids didn't come along. At Megan's request, he leads them inside and feels slightly embarrassed by how dirty and cluttered the place is. He then leads Noah to a special room filled with an impressive collection of swords and daggers. Bodhi picks one weapon and challenges Noah to a pretend duel, to which the latter reluctantly agrees. Up next, the two begin to play fight, but Bodhi quickly gains the upper hand and points a sword directly at Noah, as if he's about to strike for real. However, Bodhi reveals that he was only messing with him. Just then, Megan appears and aims a gun at Bodhi, believing he is trying to hurt her brother. Bodhi feels heartbroken to realize that his own cousins are trying to kill him, while Noah urges his sister to shoot him, so a panicked Bodhi runs outside. Following this, Noah chases after him with a blade. And then all of a sudden...
Jesus! You thought I was gonna tell on you?
Armed with swords and crossbows, Bodhi begins chasing Noah, insisting that they are family, and he would never turn them in to the police. In the chaos, Megan arrives and ultimately shoots him in the heart. Seizing the opportunity, Noah also stabs Bodhi in the back, causing the poor man to collapse to the ground. Next, Noah leans in close to his cousin to check if he's really dead, when suddenly Bodhi stabs his hand, so Megan shoots Bodhi again to finally end his life. She then pulls the knife from Noah's hand and douses it with vodka before wrapping it carefully in cloth. Later, the siblings dump the lifeless body into an isolated lake, and Megan, surprisingly, finds the experience thrilling rather than traumatizing. In the next scene, Megan tells her mom that she knows she killed Patty because she had an affair with her father. Judy is filled with regret and pleads with her to tell the truth, but Megan firmly insists it's far too late for that. She asks her how she killed Patty, and Judy says only 2 faint words, "Fell Patty." The words suggest it might have been an accident, but Megan doesn't seem to believe this. Soon, Lieutenant Zell arrives at the hospital and begins questioning Megan about Noah's injury. Megan responds that he had stabbed his own hand while trying to cut an avocado. Zell also mentions that Grace was found with a Rolex engraved with Judy and her husband's initials, which was likely a gift from the old woman. But this time, Megan responds to all the answers smugly and isn't scared by the lieutenant. Before leaving, a suspicious Zell remarks that murders like this are eventually solved, even if it takes 30 years. Later, when Megan returns to her mother's place, she's shocked to find Noah and Doug playing video games in the basement. Doug reveals that Noah told him everything that happened, but he isn't mad and has decided to let things rest. However, Megan does this.
Good to put things to rest.
Horrified, Noah explains that he couldn't cope with the guilt, so he confided in Doug. He insists he will return to California and never come back, but Megan coldly tells him he's not going anywhere. Following this, the siblings wrap Doug's body in plastic and place it in the same spot as his mother, before covering it with a panel. Since the house cannot be sold now, Megan orders Noah to stay to look after Judy, who needs care 24/7. She tells him that after Mom passes, he can take a proper job that will pay the bills and live a quiet, normal life. The movie concludes with Megan returning to her normal life as if nothing had happened, while the shadows of murder linger quietly beneath the surface. Thus, we reach the end of this movie. Thanks for watching. If you like the movie, support us. Don't forget to subscribe for more movie recaps. See you in the next movie. Goodbye.